I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack. Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man.
Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Going to be talking all things boxing today. Warrington, Stevenson, Mike Garcia, Floyd Mayweather, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, all the fights this last weekend, sort of touching on the fights that are happening in Japan tonight. Just a ton of stuff we're going to break down and discuss today. Rock Nation back in the sport with the whole Better Be Fanlon Mang purse bid. Just a lot of stories out there that as we're wrapping up the year, this might be our last show of the year, guys. I know, sad. I'm sorry. We will be back for sure in the new year. I expect that I'm going to be out of town. By the way, guys, just a little show announcement here. I'll be out of town Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so that means probably a show Sunday. But we have no fights this weekend. So don't expect us to return to a show on Sunday unless there's news. But digress from that, obviously on today's show, we have a lot to get to. Plus, if we have time, we're going to get to our some of our best of the decade or biggest of the decade discussions as I think we're going to work into the next few weeks into the shows because it's the end of the decade. Every other show and outlets talking about of the decades and of the years. So it's now time for us to do that as well. Plus, check out our top 15 heavyweights of the world right now. In boxing. Check that video out that I posted earlier today. But digressing, let's go over to Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
First, I want to recount on some of those heavyweight ranking. I think some of those. I guess it would be your rankings were strange, in my opinion.
I mean, Gary, this is one of those shows where it's like our New Year's Eve show in a way. We can do anything. I can pull out our rankings, both of ours side by side if you want, and compare them.
How high did you rank Carlos Takam?
I think 15.
Then how's he on the list then? Was he a tiebreaker?
There was definitely some tiebreakers.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people upset with certain ordering of the rankings. That wasn't me or your decision, Gary.
Yeah.
First off, it was left up to math. And then if the math was tied, we left up to Rob or Foo. And
sometimes math can be tough, like you forgot to carry a 1 or something, You
know what? That is true. There's a couple times I miscounted that there. Got to fix that. So it's possible, but I don't think so. I think Hunter and Takam were tied.
And you want to redo 168, 175, and lightweight because of.
Yeah, well, we might have to do 175. I don't know about that one. They're still around the same spot.
Like Badu Jack's still going to be in my top 15. I'm not going to drop him out entirely. So the order might change. I don't remember where I had Jack and Pascal on my list.
They might stay in the same for me because the fight was one of those where it's equal enough, where the loser didn't really drop off in my regard that much. It was Gattuki who probably lost to someone.
Because I think I had Pascal higher, so it'd probably just stay the same.
Yeah, I 168 is the one where somebody has to drop off. Also, we're going to talk about Arsen Guillemarian, him beating Constantine Berjuno That was a big win in the cruiserweight division. That's going to change our cruiserweight ranking, so we're going to have to look at that one as well. A lot to get to, Gary. A lot. But you wait. You were upset about the heavyweight rankings? You were upset about the order?
Not at all. I just I thought you had to have to comp higher than 15, but then I guess it was a tiebreaker because I guess I had Dubois at 15, so Takam was on the list, and Dubois wasn't.
Hold on, I can pull it up right now, guys. Okay, because apparently, look, that was one of the placements that received the most hate.
Which
was that one?
It's like when they do the NCAA basketball tournament, and it's like 64 teams are in, and everyone like has an opinion on who the last team in should have been. I mean, no, do I think the ratings were egregious or anything like that? No, the ratings.
Sorry, I did not have Takam at 15. I have him at 14. I had Usyk at 15.
Which makes sense why he's 10.
Hot take right there. Sorry, guys.
I had him at 5. I did, right? But low, big 4.
Who?
Usyk.
Usyk. You had Usyk high. You had Usyk at 5. Yep, at 5, which is criminal, by the way, guys. He got touched up by Chaz Witherspoon. Don't deny it.
So, Chisora got touched up by what's the dude's Spilker, right? That's
Spilker. Yeah.
Okay, is Spilker any different than Tim Witherspoon? Not Tim Witherspoon. That's different than Tim Witherspoon. Is he any different than Chaz Witherspoon?
Isn't Tim Witherspoon like a baseball player or something?
Tim Witherspoon was Chaz Witherspoon's dad.
Oh. Okay. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I'll be honest. Look, like you get to a point in the heavyweight rankings, like after like Rivas, Pulev, Ranaki, and Miller. After that pairing, everyone else is the same. Takam, Joyce, Jennings, Dubois, Hunter. They're all the same. And you can make an argument that like all those guys can beat guys like Povetkin and Ortiz and others like Pulev. Like those are winnable fights for everyone that's ranked below them. So let's not act like there are these huge differences between the heavyweight rankings and these individual placements. There isn't. I would argue, like Jennings was on his way to winning a decision against Rivas, lost in the last round. You know, you run that fight 10 times, Jennings is going to win 4 or 5 of those times. Sorry. And Chisora, he's going to win or lose to any of the guys we could mention within the top 15. Dubois, Joyce, Hunter. You know, like you start naming guys that didn't make our top 15, they can beat guys within our top 15. Absolutely. You know, heavyweight's kind of good that way right now. There's a lot of competitive matchups that you can make within the top 25, to be honest.
I have a heavyweight related topic in my topics of the decade. Also, this was a really, really good year for boxing. I was going through my fights of the year, my fighters of the year, my knockouts of the year. There was a lot of good stuff. Like it is so hard to make a list of your knockouts of the year. There were probably 20 that can all compete. Obviously, well, I guess we don't want to release that yet.
Quickly, somebody's saying that Rivas isn't elite either. Dude, he was like a point away from beating Dylan White too. Like, are we forgetting that as well? He knocked down Dylan White. Like, he was literally a round away. If he had won one more round, he probably would have won the fight.
I forgot about that until you said it.
Yeah, I said it on the video, by the way, so check it out. But Rivas beat Jennings and then lost to Dylan White all in the span of the last 18 months. Like that's an elite resume in my opinion for the heavyweight division. It's just the elite of the heavyweight is not the same talent level as the elite of 147. You know, 135, 126, 122, 115. Like, we all be honest about that.
I remember having this elite conversation about Eli Manning for like 5 years in a row.
And he's an elite quarterback, Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, I agree. I wouldn't vote for him because better quarterbacks, Donovan McNabb, Phillip Rivers, aren't going to get in.
First off, Donovan McNabb is not a better quarterback than Eli Manning.
Absolutely the better quarterback than Eli Manning.
He's not.
We can pull up the stats on that and just compare them side by side. But that's besides the point.
It's like CompuBox. They're
yeah.
fixed. They're fixed stats.
Steve McNair, far better than Eli Manning, not getting in the Hall of Fame. Phillip Rivers, not getting in the Hall of Fame. Those guys are better than Eli. But you're right. Eli won 2 Super Bowls, so he'll get in the Hall of Fame. That's some kind of standard. You play on a good team, so you get to be in the Hall of Fame. What were we talking? Oh, the elite thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Is Oscar Rivas elite? I mean, I don't know. What do you consider elite? If you consider anyone in the top 15 in the division elite, then he's elite, right? And then if that's your standard, being in the top 15, then you're elite. But if your standard is top 15, that means the 15th best lightweight's elite, which I probably disagree with. But you got to put 15 people.
I don't. Okay, there are some divisions where like that is absolutely true. Like 105. Holy shit. Like that's rough to rank.
That's why ESPN just combines 05 and 08. They just make one.
That's true. I forgot about that. I understand why they do that. But lightweight, like you have guys like Ryan Garcia, who is like one of the top 20 or 30 guys in the world, maybe top 15 in the world too. I mean, if you're one of the best 20-ish guys in the world out of 1,000, 2,000 people, like that's elite, I would say. Right? How many people are in the division? That's what I would say is that most likely if you consistently, that'd be my argument. If you're consistently within that top 15 range, you're elite. You're a world level athlete. Now that's not talking about the guys that are in the top 15 for once in a while and then they get drop out all the time. Like that's not what I'm talking about. You know, like a Huey Fury, for example, who goes from 15 in the world 1 month to 30th. You know, like that's a big swing. I'm trying to think of some other guys.
Rough. I think he's in the top 20. He's better than Dominic Brazil.
No, he's not.
He beat Joseph Parker. Like Dominic Brazil, and I don't even like Parker.
He didn't, though. He didn't beat him. Igloo saying, I would say top 5 consistently is elite. Well, that's obviously your definition of it then. Like, that's where we get to the subjective nature and the connotation of how we use these words in accordance with the sport we're talking about.
But if it's only top 5, then Danny Garcia is not elite. I mean, Danny Garcia is a Hall of Famer.
Danny Garcia is consistently within the top 5, though, I would argue.
I don't think he's in the top 5 right now.
But you can be out of it for a little bit period of time, but let's be honest, the second Manny Pacquiao retires, which is going to be in the next 2 years probably, he's back in the top 5. And, I mean, you run back certain fights, maybe Danny beats a Keith, maybe he beats a Sean Porter. I'm not saying he does. Maybe he beats a Terrence Crawford.
Oh.
Fucking Kavaliauskas knocked him down and touched him up. I mean, Danny Garcia can maybe do some work against Crawford. Let's be honest here. Danny
Garcia has great one-punch power, and he knows how to land his left hook, and he can change a fight, if not end it, with one punch. So, yeah, I mean, I don't... Garcia could beat those guys.
Igloo saying I would rank Brazil above Rivas, too. Yo, I love Igloo, man. I've met him in person. He is a very nice person. And, like, he's a doctor, so, like, he's actually highly intelligent. But that's
something for our show.
But that's some batshit crazy thing you just said there. That Brazil is better than Rivas. I don't see it. But digressing from that, Gary, do you want to get to because it's a lax show? Do you want to get to like news? Do you want to get to fights? Do you want to do of the week of the decade conversation? Which one do you want to do, Gary? Up to you.
We can do whatever is on the agenda. I'm a team player. Just whatever makes you, whatever makes best radio. Go.
God, this is like when you ask your girl, like, "Hey, what are you hungry for?" And she's like, "I don't know, whatever you want." And it's like, "No, but what are you hungry for?" I don't know, whatever. That was that right there, Gary. God damn it. Logan Wolf, Matt, is LeBron athlete of the decade? Not Floyd. I mean, it depends. You're talking about cross sports now? I mean, Floyd's probably not my sports athlete of the decade. He's just the highest earner of sports. That's
He really only competed for the first half of the decade.
That first half, though, does make him a contention to a degree. I mean, he beat Pacquiao and Canelo. But if we're talking about cross sports, I don't know. Tom Brady's still in that fucking conversation, guys. Let's be honest.
I'd probably say Brady.
If I have to pick someone, because Brady's still fucking doing it, for God's sake. Digressing though. Let's briefly just run through the fights. Gary, since we already did the reaction show and there weren't really any other fights this weekend, though there were two I'm going to just highlight briefly. We're now a few days away from the Tank Davis performance. Any new thoughts? Any new sort of narratives that you think that need to be talked about coming away from this card, either about the main event, Pascal Badu-Jack, Angelo Leo, Foogatti, anyone involved on this card, Showtime itself? Any thoughts, a few days out, maybe we didn't touch on for the reaction show?
Yeah, Tank Davis better stay away from Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko. I can't see him having success against either one of those two guys. The division's fun, and hopefully those fights get made. But I don't know. Tank looked flawed. Tank looked hittable. Tank was getting hit by a 40-year-old who ruptured his Achilles tendon, right? Like, that's the same injury Kevin Durant has, which, arguably the best basketball player of the decade, put him out for an entire year in his prime, right? A 38-year-old blew his out and was putting hands on Tank Davis. You know what I'm saying? Like, Teofimo and Lopez would have got him out. Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko would have got him out quickly. Like, you saw, speaking of knockouts of the year, we overlooked that Loma knockout over Crowler. That was a perfect shot he hit him with. You want to hear another knockout for knockout of the year that we don't talk about? Dorticos when he knocked out Tabiti.
Oh, that's a great knockout.
Great knockout. I was just going back and looking at that knockout. That was a great one.
Matthew D'Souza saying, no way he ruptured his Achilles. Let's get that right. I mean, he went to the hospital afterwards. I mean, I didn't see any official notice, but I saw the pictures of his leg in the hospital, and it looked like a ruptured Achilles injury. Like the bruising, the way the muscle was spazzing, like you could tell something's wrong. The way his actual ankle and Achilles area looked in terms of bruising and swelling, it looked like he definitely injured something. Again, not a doctor, but it wasn't just his shoe exploding. He was injured. Like, the dude went to the hospital and you could see the injury to a degree. Same with a hamstring. You could see a hamstring injury obviously outside the skin. You can see the way the hamstring looks under your thigh and the way it's all tightened up and the bruising. You can tell visually. Achilles tendon is sort of the same thing. So I don't have an official notice yet, but from what I saw, that shit kind of looked legit. My YouTubing medical degree right here.
Yeah, I went to what's the mydoctor.com or whatever it's and
WebMD.
WebMD, there it is. I went to WebMD and diagnosed him with a ruptured Achilles. So we don't need to look into it anymore. No, I mean I'm not a doctor. I've been told it was a ruptured Achilles. I have no reason to suspect that it's not. I mean, you guys have evidence to support that this is a big conspiracy and he actually just had a mosquito bite on his ankle. Okay, fine. But I haven't seen any I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that story was bogus. But putting that aside, Tank Davis better stay away from those two guys. I don't know who he fights next. I think it's going to be Bartholomew. I mean, that's a winnable fight. But those guys now, those 3-4 names, and then you have Tanahara on the come up, and Tanahara is a guy who's 16-0, 18-0. I don't think he's lost a round yet. I mean, it's really incredible with that guy. So, I mean, this is going to be a fun division. I don't know if Haney and Teofimo are going to be at 35 for a long haul because they're both really big. But if they all stay around that size and you have Davis and maybe Ryan Garcia too, lightweight can be really fun. They could be a rejuvenation of the lightweight division. Yeah,
I saw a graphic of all of the lightweights now. It's the U.S. names like Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. Those are all 4 very young, talented, elite lightweights in the U.S. market. All of a sudden, 135 is rejuvenated. It's seemingly overnight. You know, it's going to take some time for the division to get some hierarchy and for these guys to like fight each other. But once they do, this division's one of the best in the sport. They just need to fight each other. And these prospects need to start having some real step-up fights, to be honest. Like, we're going to get to Ryan Garcia's next fight in a bit. That next fight's not the right step-up for him. He needs to be moving faster, to be honest. Same with Haney, same with other guys. Like, they just need to be moving faster than what they are.
Tanahara has an opponent, too. Did you see that?
No, who's he fighting?
Juan Carlos Burgos.
Who's he fought?
He's one of those guys. He's
What card is it?
It's the San Antonio card, the Munguia card.
Okay.
He fought Devin Haney and went to this with Devin Haney.
Tony Ayo saying Tank is not that young. Dude is 25. Dude, that's young. Like, I'm sorry, Tank Davis is a young fighter.
Yeah.
Gary, you're cutting in and out.
Young.
Hey,
I mean,
Gary, cutting in and out. How about you refresh your page? Okay.
Sure.
Be really fast. Thank you. Just because that was bothering me. But yeah, Tony, I don't know how you can be saying that. Tank is fucking young. He's 25 years old. Like, we're still talking about Canelo being young, and the dude's 29 years old. Like, you're not entering your prime till like 28, in my opinion, most of the time. Matthew D'Souza saying Haney is 21 and too much activity caused his injury. If anything, he needs to slow things down. Maybe in terms of activity, but not in terms of competition level. Like, those are very different things here. Gary, somebody's saying in the chat, Haney is 21 and he's that too much activity caused his injury. I don't know if that's really what caused his injury. That shoulder injury can cause by various other things. I've had that same exact injury. If anything, he needs to slow things.
Get an official diagnosis
quickly. If he said, if anything, he needs to slow things down, I'm like, that doesn't matter. I'm talking about a competition level. I'm not talking about how many times they need to fight. I'm talking about who they need to fight. Like, that's what I'm talking about, speeding things up. Is that you need to go from fighting the Foncescas of the world and the Alejandro Santiagos of the world, and to fight the Fortunas, the Campbells, the Comes, the Shafikovs. I mean, who else? Even Gamboa to a degree. I mean, it's fine. Like, start fighting guys that we know that they have, to a degree, some elite caliber ability, and they are a true barometer of championship level talent. They just are. Fonseca, even though he's fought some guys, is not really a barometer of what's next to come for a guy like Ryan Garcia, which we'll get to later. But yeah, let's go. I want to get to the best or biggest of the decade. I just want to get to that. I feel like that's some good conversation. We can get to news in a second. And also reminding you guys, remember, fights coming up tonight. You have to find an illegal stream. Kosei Tanaka and who else? Ioka and Javier Cintron. Really good fight. You guys gotta check this one out. Highly recommend it. But also, Sho Ishida was fighting on Friday against Israel Gonzalez at super flyweight. Lost. Notable loss. Might change our rankings. I have to go back and check. I don't think it will. And like I said, Arsen Gulamarian defeating Konstantin Bejanaru, and both guys were undefeated cruiserweights. Notable, especially Gulamarian being a big draw in France. But let's get to what this is, guys. Me and Gary have decided, for us personally each, the biggest 5 stories of the decade. Okay, so this could be a moment, this could be a fight, this could be a long stringing news story, it could be whatever it may be. Okay, but it's whatever me and Gary's 5 biggest stories of the decade. Gary, what's your 5th biggest story of the decade?
Amateur boxing drama and the 2012 Olympics.
Can you repeat that? You kind of dropped out. Are you on Wi-Fi or Ethernet, Gary?
I'm on Ethernet.
Okay. You're going to have to call you. After the show, Gary.
I got to yell at AT&T again?
Yeah, yell at AT&T again. But back to you. Repeat what you said.
Amateur boxing drama and the 2012 Olympics.
Expound on that.
All right. So if you're going back, there was a controversy with AIBA where the president, and I'm going to butcher this name, Ivan Kabadik, president, the CEO of AIBA at the time.
The AIBA, which is the apparatus that originally, even though it still kind of does to some degree now, ran amateur boxing and Olympic boxing to a degree, or overall.
There was a corruption where they promised Azerbaijan, which is a country, not a person, 2 gold medals. Then there was a fight in the 3rd round where an Azerbaijan fighter knocked down a Japanese fighter 6 times in the final round. The fight was neither stopped nor were any of the knockdowns actually counted as knockdowns. They went back. Japan petitioned the judges, and the judges nullified that loss and awarded the fight to a Japanese guy. Now, maybe it was a coincidence, but that's one heck of a coincidence where Azerbaijan was promised a gold medal, and then you get an Azerbaijani fighter knocked down 6 times in one round. None of them counted, and the fight's not stopped. Also in that Olympics, you had the Errol Spence decision where he got robbed, and that they went back and changed that decision. And then you had the bogus decision in the gold medal round where the home countryman, Anthony Joshua, was given the gold medal in a fight he clearly lost. So there was a lot of corruption there. Then they changed the rules for 2016 where they removed the headgear and they changed the scoring system. And then there was a lot of talk after 2016, was boxing even going to be part of the Olympics? So there was a lot that went on. I took notes here. Yeah, those were basically the things I wanted to get into. Right, they took the headgear out. They changed the scoring system.
And even to this year, we've seen the AIBA and amateur boxing still be a massive story, with finally them be removed from Olympic boxing by the IOC. Massive step in the right direction.
But you see, if you don't follow the Olympic boxing and amateur boxing, you might not know these things, but there was a lot of corruption. There was just a story that I forget. It was a female reporter, I think, from the BBC, who just reported this, and it came out that Azerbaijan was promised 2 gold medals. It's like, what? Excuse me, And then you had the incident where the Japanese fighter knocked him down 6 times, and none of them were counted as knockdowns, and the fight wasn't stopped. It was just really, really odd.
I agree. That's a big story. You know what? And I was thinking about this list. There's a bunch of ones I just left off mine, and that was one I didn't think about, was amateur boxing and how the amount of changes that have happened the last, like you said, decade from 2012 to now, and are still happening. I mean, amateur boxing is still sort of reorganizing itself after the AIBA's demise, so to speak, even though it still has some control over some amateur tournaments, which is just... I'm trying to remember the exact thing. I want to say the AIBA has control over the qualifiers, but not the actual Olympics this year. But that should, going forward, it should stop. God knows. I mean, it's still such a shit show. And a story that does not get the recognition or the attention it needs. My 5th biggest story of the decade, one for all of our UK listeners here, you guys are going to love this one. The rise of UK boxing overall. And I know that UK boxing has been obviously a powerhouse for decades and decades and decades, but in the last decade, so to speak, it has risen to a place where it has surpassed the US in a lot of different ways. In terms of crowd attendance, in terms of overall, I think, national attention to the sport. The way that, to some degree, UK boxing the scene has been monopolized between 2 parties, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn and Matchroom overall. And because of that, there's been some positive effects. I mean, I think overall, the train from amateurs to pros, championship, and all that is streamlined much more so in the UK. And the UK boxing scene as a whole has been revitalized in the last decade, from Carl Froch, George Groves, selling out 80,000 at Wembley. So obviously the AJ era, in my opinion, surpassing the Ricky Hatton era in terms of national attention and international attention for sure. I just think that is one that still sort of gets slept on as we talk about it into the decade conversation and stories of the year. UK boxing is still a story, in my opinion. Like the fact that it is still here, and not only still here, but in large aspects dominating the marketplace, to me is fascinating in combat sports. Gary, what's number 4 for you?
The rejuvenation of the heavyweight division.
Ooh, that was going to be one of mine to put. I like that. Nice. Expound on it, of course.
The heavyweight division was bad under the Klitschko era, and that was over a decade. And Joshua, Wilder, and Fury mainly have put it back on the map. It made it not, it was just dominated by the Klitschkos, who I think, as good as they were, and I'm not here to knock them, they were bad for boxing because their fights were so boring, right? It just put the heavyweight division to sleep for a decade and a half. These 3 guys woke it up again. The heavyweight boxing is front page talk again. My neighbor was asking me, who only watches, a couple fights a year and is a baseball, basketball, and football fan, typical American sports fan, was asking me about the Fury Wilder fight, right? Like they've made boxing, at least heavyweight boxing, mainstream again. And as goes the heavyweight division, goes boxing. So this is good news, right? And now the best news is you may have the best of the bunch, Dubois, to lead it into the next decade. So
I love it. I love it.
This is good for boxing. As it makes it more of a mainstream. Like when you had the Tyson, Holyfield, Lewis era, it was a mainstream sport. When you had the heavyweights of the 70s and before that, it was a mainstream sport. As goes the heavyweight division, as goes boxing. So this is good news for boxing.
Absolutely agree. And that was definitely one that was almost on my list. Let me see, which is going to be my number 4. I didn't rank them, so now I'm trying to pick which is going to be my number 4. Okay, number 4. New industry executives taking control. And I know some people are instantly going to think about like DAZN, but that's a different aspect, which I'm going to get to in a different topic. I'm talking about Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn. Entering this decade and going into it, it was still largely dominated by the old sort of executives, old promoters, so to speak. And I was going to use the term promoter for this topic, but I know Heyman doesn't really fit that description. Even like Barry Hearn, for example, Frank Warren, like the aughts, the mid-2000s was still dominated by old school people. Oscar De La Hoya even to a degree. In this decade, it hasn't. It's been largely dominated by Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn. And those are 2 people that are, to a degree, new to the sport. And I think their new leadership of the industry is blatant. Like it's evident in how the industry moves, what it looks like. It's molded after, I think, these 2 guys' vision for the sport to a degree, and it shows. This decade looks different compared to last decade because last decade was run by Bob Arum, guys like Frank Warren, guys like Barry Hearn, guys like Oscar De La Hoya. And this decade, it's run by Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn, 2 very different people, but people that are very different from the last generation, even more so. Gary, what's your number 3? Or number 3?
I like this one. Chronic inactivity syndrome.
Ooh.
This is the rise of guys, and it started in 2010 with Floyd Mayweather, who beat Marquez, and then he beat Mosley to end 2009, and then took a year and a half off just in his prime. And then you saw Andre Ward do something similar. You saw Mikey Garcia do something similar. You saw Keith Thurman do something similar. We're just taking a year and a half, 2 years off out of your prime. And in addition to that, now this is the first time, it's been going on for 10 years, so we don't really think it's a new phenomenon, but it kind of is, where everyone, not just the top 3 or 5 or 10 names on the sport, but all the top fighters really only fight twice a year. That used to not be the case. You may have the top, money earners only fight twice a year, but everyone out of that tippity top half of 1% fought 3 to 4 times a year. That's not the case anymore. Guys in the top 10, 15, really almost all of them are on 2 fight, especially if they're over the age of 25, are really on 2 fight a year plans. It's good to a degree that it can prolong their career, but it also gives you a much smaller sample size, right? Where if a guy looks bad, like Jamal Charlo, that's gonna leave a taste in your mouth for a long time, and then he needs to do what he just did in this last fight to remind you how good he is. I don't know, with the bubble of boxing, how much they're getting paid. I guess don't fight more than you have to. It's not good for your brain. But this is new, and we're gonna see how it plays out, because this is the first decade that this has really been a thing.
Yeah, and I think there's the reason why the culprit of that is a reason I'll get to, not in this topic, but the one coming up. My third biggest story of the decade is PED testing and regulation, understanding and reform. I mean, we started in this millennia in 1999, 2000 with the creation of WADA. So PED regulation is a very new thing, period. So last decade, I think, while it was a topic of conversation in sports, obviously you had the Balco scandal and stuff like that, it wasn't, I think, a topic that became one where a lot of people were educated on the issue. A lot of people, I think, were just getting Cold War era talking points that we used against the Soviets and how their Olympics ran. And it's Rocky IV talking points. Like, that's all it was. Compare it to this decade where we went from, Danny Garcia, Eric Morales scandal, Thomas Hauser's huge expose that would probably landed him into the Boxing Hall of Fame, on USADA, the creation of VADA, all the way to the Dylan White situation, Canelo situation, Martinez's situation. The conversation has now evolved so much in the last 5-8 years, let alone the last decade. And it's a story that I know I harp on a lot, but I know not a lot of other people do. So this is a massive story. The fact that we have evolved as a community, as a culture, when it comes to conversations about PED regulation is massive. And the fact that regulation has evolved so drastically in the last 20 years, also massive. And again, a underutilized or not often talked about story of the decade. Gary, your second biggest story of the decade, man.
The Mayweather-Pacquiao saga drama. Again, this is kind of what kickstarted us into the steroid investigation, the steroid era in boxing. Obviously, it was in baseball for a long, long time before that, a decade before that. Mm-hmm. But Pacquiao's refusal to take a test led Victor Conte to go on air and explain how you would pass the test. And then Pacquiao said, okay, I'll take the test, right? He went into blood doping and all of that, and how you throw off the levels, and how boxing's testing for steroids was antiquated and outdated. Anyone with half a brain, meaning anyone except for James Toney, could pass this easily as long as they know when the test is. So we got into that. And then it was just 5 years of talking about, when are we going to get this fight? When are we going to get this fight? And then we finally got the fight a couple of years too late, and it kind of disappointed. Not as a box office standpoint, but just as an entertainment, as a fight. It was kind of what I was expecting it's going to be, but the casual fan, the 4 million people who bought that fight or whatever it was expecting fireworks. I was like, you're going to be disappointed. And they were certainly disappointed.
My second biggest topic actually kind of is similar to yours. It's Mayweather and Pacquiao's chokehold on the sport, and not so much their fight together and their saga together, but just that as well. But independently, the fact that they are still, in large aspects, the leaders of the industry, right? I don't think if you asked you or me in 2010, hey, a decade from now, so 10 years from now, do you think Mayweather and Pacquiao are still going to be at the top of the sport and running everything still? We'd be like, no, fuck no, come on. It's never going to happen. And then we're like, they're never going to fight either. And they ended up fighting, biggest fight ever. And then independently, Mayweather has still fought Canelo this decade, fought Conor McGregor, which was a massive event. And even this year, we did a show in the last few months about how Mayweather is coming back. We have a topic on this show about Dana White saying, no, he is for sure fighting, guys, in 2020. That's the deal. He is fighting. And you have Manny Pacquiao, who through even the Marquez loss, which could have made a story of this year or a story of the decade as well, but Pacquiao is still not only a top welterweight, but he is rising up the rankings as well. Like, he went up several spots in our rankings for 147, not to give anyone a little spoiler for that video coming up. But I don't think anyone expected that these two guys, the masters of the last decade, would come into this decade still in control and then end it still in control. They're entering their third decade of the sport, still at the top, still running the industry.
Pacquiao, up until Canelo Alvarez did what he did to Kovalev, but through September, if you had to pick a fighter of the year, probably would have been Pacquiao.
Yeah, and even to that degree, like, it's still Canelo, but like Pacquiao's still in that like top 5, top 3 fighters of the year.
For sure.
And that in of itself is a story of the decade, because there's no way we started this decade thinking that. There's no way you out there listening to the show right now thought in 2010, or even especially after the Marquez knockout, yeah, Pacquiao's still not only going to be relevant in 2020, but potentially still be the best welterweight on the planet. No one would think that. No one. And that a lot of the welterweight industry and business is based off of what Pacquiao does and how he moves. Same with Mayweather. That is still shocking to this day. Gary, your biggest story of the decade.
DAZN and the rise of the streaming app and the bubble it caused. And I guess next decade we'll talk about the effects of that bubble bursting. But when DAZN got into the game, it changed the game. First off, in a good way, we get tons of boxing fights we wouldn't have gotten in the past. We're getting now. We're getting so many more international fights. Now we're going to get fights in Italy, Japan, Canada, Spain. Where else are we getting them at? What are the other? But there's
everywhere.
Germany,
Everywhere,
which is good. Fights we would have never gotten. The hardcore can pay $20 a month and get those fights,
or $8.99 or $9.99. One of those prices. If you pay the year.
It's like when you go to the doctor, you ask how much something costs. Well, you have insurance? What kind of insurance do you have? Well, just go get the procedure and then we'll send you a bill later.
And then you find out no matter what the insurance is, it still fucking sucks and I have to pay a lot.
Could you imagine going to a diner and be like, how much is a cup of coffee in a Danish? Well, just eat up and then we'll tell you.
It depends.
I'd rather know now.
Or it'd be like, okay, it costs this much, but halfway through the meal, it's like, no, actually, it's going to cost this much.
Yeah.
That's great.
I forget what
DAZN. You were talking about DAZN.
So it's good in that sense. I think it's also going to be the death of pay-per-view. I think it's going to be the death of the way. It's already changed the way we watch boxing, right? Most boxing I've watched, just the majority of the cards now are streamed, whether it be ESPN Plus, the Fight Pass, Facebook Live, right? Still Showtime and Fox, but that's really and Showtime is kind of dead, right? So most cards now are streamed.
You're the one that said it, not me.
Numbers don't lie. Did we get a number for the
not yet. I was kind of hoping we would get some TV numbers on the Gervonta Davis fight. Not yet. I haven't seen it, and I have some notification turned on for certain people, so we will know. Trust me. When the people that know, I will know. But to sort of piggyback off of this is my number one story of the decade. It's the rise of streaming services and the demise of the old paradigm. I mean, you include the death of HBO in that, the rise of ESPN Plus, which predates DAZN. Have to get that out there. ESPN Plus moved the market towards a DAZN happening. And even like to some degree, like Showtime Anytime, Fox Sports Go, these are software programs, whatever you want to call them, OTT services that are being more utilized in the industry. And because that, like you said, the bubble is created is massive. And though that this story is relatively only 3 or 4 years old in the decade, it's still massive in terms of its ramifications, how much it has changed the industry. And that in of itself means that it's the biggest story of the decade. that all of a sudden within the span of 2 years, a year, everything changed, or like everything. All the networks changed, relationships changed, alliances changed, everything changed. The amount of money that was in the sport quadrupled, if not even more than that, guys. Let's be honest here. Budgets doubled overnight from certain networks. This is a thing that the market was not expecting and all of a sudden just fell into place. And like you said, Gary, the recession that might happen due to this bubble bursting in the next decade is going to be a topic that will probably be, in 10 years from now, one we talk about as the biggest story of the 2020s, because that's just a reality. It will be. This is one of those stories that will carry over.
Wages went up in America 4%, and that's considered really good. But that's an estimate for this year. In boxing, we're talking about what Matt was saying, 200%, 500%. Like, I mean, absolutely absurd numbers, right? Like
Triple G's purses went up over 700%.
You know what I'm saying? And 4% is good, really good for everyone else, right? Like, so if you say inflation is 2.5%, that means you're making 1.5% more in actual dollars. That's good, right? 400%. I mean, this is not real. This is a bubble. This is artificial. This is going to burst, right? And I just want, like, y'all remember that me and Matt told you this ahead of time. Like, this is on its way. This is going to happen. I don't know what the after effects are going to be, but this is happening, and it's happening within a couple of years.
And it's going to affect boxing. It's going to affect MMA. It's going to affect combat sports directly, because combat sports have been used the most. I'm using that word in a very negative, connotative state here. We've been used the most in this paradigm shift.
I wanted to comment on that, and I was just watching, and Matt's going to call me a boomer. I was just watching CNBC, and there's a fight.
So yeah, extra boomer status. Oh my God, ew.
And there's a fight league, and they were talking about the Zone app, by the way, briefly.
Okay.
Because it covers MMA. There's a fight league coming out, and mixed martial arts is the third biggest sport in the world, behind only soccer, football, and basketball. So it's soccer number 1, basketball number 2, MMA number 3.
What are they basing on that off of?
Worldwide fans.
Well, but
that's
I mean,
that's
who's counting these fans? Like,
I didn't. They were. It was a talking point that they were going over on how the market hasn't been touched yet, and only 20% of those fans. They estimated 300 million fans worldwide, is what they said. Only 20% of those are from the United States.
How many fans do they estimate like the NFL has?
They only gave the top 3. Football wasn't one of the top 3.
That's,
it was basketball, soccer 1, basketball 2, MMA 3.
They gotta fix that shit. It's just wrong. I'm sorry. I'm an MMA fan. It's just wrong.
But like, there's MMA fans in every country.
That's true.
In the world, right?
Yeah.
There's not football fans. I don't think in large numbers.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, Poland's huge about MMA, but that equals out a bunch of people.
I'm just telling you what this is, and it's an untapped market. Well, largely untapped.
No, it's,
right?
it's tapped. It's tapped. Trust me. I mean, look, it's CNBC. I guarantee you that person barely knew what MMA was that was talking. You know what I mean? Like, it's the mainstream outlet. There's no one there that knows what MMA is. There's maybe one person there that's seen some Conor McGregor fights.
It was strictly on the financial side. It had nothing to do with the action in the octagon.
No, I understand that. But to some degree, you don't find the financials to these sports unless you're a fan of these sports. Like, the amount of academic studies on combat sports are very small and limited. I've read 3, I think, in my lifetime. Like, true academic from university studies that are solely about MMA or boxing, right? And they're from a professor that moonlights as a MMA reporter or something like that. Like, that's usually what it is, right? It'd be somebody that has a deep fandom for this. But digressing, Gary, I don't want to get you off your point that your grand point that you're making, because I don't know what your point is that you're making, Gary.
That there's still growth Hey, I'm just reporting what I was told.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm okay. I'm not saying anything. I'm just shaking my head, Gary. I can shake my head.
You can shake your head.
I'm allowed to. You gotta find like a YouTube clip of that segment and send it to me, Gary. I'm very curious now. Because I'm not gonna find CNBC. Find that on demand or something. Fuck that. Some boomer shit.
Because it was a 3-minute segment on, I guess it was Fast Money. I don't. The closing bell, probably closing bell.
I don't know CNBC segments or shows. Yeah, I sure, Gary, whatever it may be. But that is our 5 biggest stories of the decade. Let us know in the chat and in the comment section your 5 biggest stories of the decade as well. Let's get to some news of the day, Gary. Wilder Fury pay-per-view to have 3 fights. We kind of reported this already, but it seems like it's set in stone to agree from Manuk Akwapayan from Boxing Scene and LA Times that PBC and Top Rank each get a bout. And, the only reason I'm bringing this up is, like, we have Frank Warren out there saying, like, AJ, just wait for the winner of this fight. Do they not, like... I'm curious how set in stone this trilogy is, that 3rd fight. Gary, do you think we are 100% going to get a trilogy fight between Wilder and Fury that is by design from this contract for the rematch?
It seems that way. I mean, I can't be certain, obviously, because I haven't read the fine print.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, to me, it seems that way. And it was one of those things, like, what if Fury just outboxes him, right? And it's just a better performance than the first fight, and so he doesn't get knocked down, right? So he doesn't have any lapses, and he just boxes him for 12 rounds. Do you really want to see that again? Right? I mean, or what if he just gets whacked in the 2nd round, right? Like, because he comes in and looks like he did against Otto Baleen, and instead of Baleen cracking him in the 2nd round, Deontay Wilder does, and the fight's over. Right? Yeah. Like, that's a possibility. So, like, do you really want to see it again? So, like, I think it is, but I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing because it might not be great.
Also, we were talking about this before, also in the same article, that PBC and Top Rank each get, like, their own bout, so to speak, for this own pay-per-view card as well. Like, so instead of, we were hearing about, like, Lipinets versus Apokadorov, right? A Top Rank fighter versus a PBC fighter. Those matchups aren't going to be possible anymore. It seems like each promoter gets their own matchup for the pay-per-view card. Thoughts on that, Gary? Thoughts on how PBC, like what fight they could put together, what fight Top Rank could put together for the pay-per-view card that would optimize eyeballs, optimize, their prospects, whoever it may be. Just thoughts on that.
For Top Rank, I mean, look, it would be better if they had a Top Rank guy and a PBC guy fight each other because it'd be easier to make it, and you could get it all done on one card. So if there's anybody you want to see, if you want to see Tank fight a Top Rank guy, or you want to see
Tank Ray Beltran,
not that you would want to see that, but Shakur Stevenson versus give me a
Gary Russell,
bang. Right? Like, if you wanted to get a co-main like that, this would be the time to make it. It would also show that they're working together outside of this one big mega fight. They're working together on other things, which is a good sign. Now that we're not getting that, what do I want to see? I want to see Barrios versus Prograis. Well, I guess that wouldn't be a PBC fight. That would still be
No, it could be. Prograis not signed with anyone major.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's allowed.
And then on the Top Rank side, I want to see Shakur Stevenson on this card because I think it's a great card to put him on because it's putting him in front of lots of eyes.
He won't be.
You already have Tiafimo and Loma out.
Shakur's not going to be on this card, so stop mentioning him.
Because of the...
No matter what, he is not going to be on this card.
Okay.
Even if he's not fighting Josh Warrington, which we're going to get to, he is not fighting on this card.
Then put Big Baby Miller on the card in a heavyweight scrap. Put Big Baby Miller in there with...
Yes. And just to have Big Baby in the fight week chaos with Fury and Wilder. Yes, and then automatically for Bob, it's a way to set up in the mind of the fan the next opponent for this fight. In a way, you have Big Baby out there going to be shit talking both of them. Oh, I love that. That's some drama right there. I think Lipinets is going to be involved in here with some aspect. Even though it's not going to be Abakadorov, maybe Lipinets, Jamal James, something to that degree. Obviously, Ugas is off the table now. Sucks. For Top Rank side, they really don't have much. I mean, I could see maybe, like you said, a Big Baby, maybe a Benavidez. All the major players you'd want to put on this card to really beef it up, Lopez, Lomachenko, anyone else, they're busy. They're lined up with other dates and other venues. So I'm thinking that this card's going to be kind of weak in terms of name power, but might have some really good sneaky fights on it, to be honest. Like, you might see the best name be like guys like Brandon Figueroa, to be honest, on this undercard. Not to talk shit on him, but just be honest, like, he might be one of the biggest names we talk about on this undercard.
Figueroa versus Rigondeaux. I'll take that.
Too much money.
But you still, what's too much? I guess you have to pay Rigo. And I thought Figueroa got paid $250 for the Seau fight. I'm not saying $250 is not a lot of money, obviously it is, but when you think about how much money you're putting into this card, how much really is $250?
After you're spending $40 million plus on the main event.
I mean, $250 seems like pocket change that you dropped off. I mean, if you're gonna I get what you're saying.
I'll be honest here, guys. Like, it is. The more I think about it, the more likely we're gonna sit here and see a bunch of squash matches from Top Rank and PBC because they can't afford a deep undercard.
You're definitely getting Arnold Barbosa and Julian Rodriguez Hammerhands.
Oh, 100% getting Julian Rodriguez. 110% guarantee. That is a perfect name for this undercard. JP in the chat saying Washington Kabaya. Jonathan saying Miller, Wallin.
What is it? You guys realize Wallin's not good, right? Like,
he gave the lineal champion.
He did
the fight of the year
for a minute. Like, when that cut first opened up, and he kept going after. It's like Otto Vaylin is about to be the man who beat the man who beat the man. Like, that looked like it was going to happen for a while. And I'm a big Fury fan. You guys know that, but like, come on, that was a trash performance. And Vaylin, all he is a big guy who can take a beating. That's it. He's not as good as Takam. Like, Takam's got skills. Vaylin doesn't. Takam would outclass Otto Vaylin.
One of these days, we're going to talk about fighters that are overrated.
Otto Vaylin is number 1 on that list. He's not good. Like,
no. Tyson Fury is number 1 on that list.
I don't know that he's number 1. I mean, it depends where you rate him. If you rate him as your 3rd best heavyweight, he's underrated.
Gary, people literally compare him to Muhammad Ali.
That's overrated then, right? It's just where it's just where you rank him, Like, if you're comparing him to the all-time great heavyweights, yes, he's highly overrated.
And people do. People say he's like the best boxer in the heavyweight division ever. People say some really ludicrous shit about that guy. Same with like to a degree. It's because at the end of the year, I feel like I have no filter right now. Terrence Crawford. People compare him to Pernell Whitaker. Gotta slow down a little bit, guys. Sorry. I know, not the most fan-friendly takes there, but those two guys, overrated. Still talented, very elite, world level, but overrated.
I mean, Pernell Whitaker is one of the 10 greatest fighters ever. Was my favorite fighter to watch. He was like the Mickey Mantle of boxing. Like, he was unmotivated, didn't take care of himself outside the ring, and look how good he was. You could only imagine if he was dedicated to the sport how good he would have been, but it didn't matter because he was as good as he was. Terrence Crawford's not that good, but I think I don't want to have that debate. I think Terrence Crawford's the best welterweight in the world today.
He's not.
I mean, what that means?
Manny Pacquiao's better.
Right now?
Yes. Better wins. Looks better.
That's true. Obviously, he's got better wins. Thurman is a better win than anything Crawford has. Period.
I'll be honest. I don't know how people have Crawford ranked above Pacquiao and Spence.
Jeff Horn beat Pacquiao and got dismantled by Terrence Crawford.
And then look what happened to Jeff Horn after that.
After Crawford,
yeah,
he just beat Michael Zavara. Didn't he beat the other Billy Dibb or something like that?
No. Billy Dibb's at like fucking bantamweight or something.
Not anymore. I think he's at lightweight now. He fought on
not anymore. No, you're right. He's at lightweight now. But I mean, no, he fought Zavara and then God.
The other Australian. Why can't I think of it?
Who cares? Carson Jones.
It starts with an M. No, it's the other Mundine. Anthony Mundine.
Oh, that's right. God. Jeff Horn is overrated.
He beat Pacquiao.
Yeah, sometimes people have off nights.
It's true, especially when you travel halfway around the world, and it happens.
Yeah, but Pacquiao should be ranked above Terrence Crawford. I don't know how people have Terrence Crawford ranked number 1 in the world right now.
Crawford or Pacquiao next? Who do you think wins?
I think it's a 50-50 fight. Like, people act like Pacquiao can't win that fight. What the fuck they're talking about? Pacquiao can absolutely beat Terrence Crawford right now. I don't know how people can't come away from the Thurman fight going, Pacquiao can beat every one of these guys. I don't know how people do not come away with that thought.
No, I'm not saying he could. Like, I'm not saying he's got a 0% chance, but I don't think he beats any of those. Like, if he fought Thurman again, I think he loses.
I don't think that.
If he fought Spence, I think he loses. If he fought Crawford, I think he loses.
I think if I had to like for sure picks, like make picks, I would pick Porter and Spence to beat Pacquiao. But even Porter's a maybe. Everyone else is pretty much a maybe. Like Crawford, maybe. You can maybe beat him.
I could see him knocking out Porter because Porter might run into something. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Stylistically, I think that's a tough fight for Porter. I don't know. Danny Garcia is kind of the one in 50-50 on.
Like, we saw Mikey Garcia pressure and make Spence fight out of character. Mikey fucking Garcia. Manny Pacquiao is beating a lot of these guys. Manny Pacquiao could potentially be the number 1 welterweight in the world right now. Like, that's crazy to say, but it's just a reality.
What's a better win, Porter or Thurman? I guess Thurman's the better win, right? So he's got...
Porter in 2019 is a better win.
Yeah, but if I'm going to argue Thurman, what am I going to say? I'm going to say Thurman beat Porter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like context matters. Like he beat Porter in 2015 or 16. Yeah. It's 2019, 2020 now. Like time changes, fighters change. Like that context matters. And even with context, it does. Pacquiao's win against Thurman still is highly, highly impressive. And is more impressive than anything Crawford has done. Period. Like, full stop. And include every win in Crawford's resume. What Pacquiao just did this year is more impressive.
What happens when Crawford beats Teixeira? You're going to change your mind?
I'm serious. I'm going to riot when we get that news, by the way. Moving on. Dylan White via Eddie Hearn, this IFL interview on YouTube, guys. It looks like Eddie Hearn's about to blast off in a NASA rocket ship, but that's the outfit he's going with, apparently. And saying that Dylan White next fight is identified or potential for April 18th, and he's looking for Andy Ruiz Jr. or Alexander Povetkin. And he also says that AJ Kubek-Pulev most likely happening in May. Gary, thoughts on Dylan White fighting Povetkin or Ruiz? Let's be honest, it's Povetkin, and Joshua Pulev seemingly being the fight in May that they're going for.
Povetkin, say that second part again.
Second part's Joshua Pulev in May. First part is White fighting either Andy Ruiz Jr. or Povetkin. It's most likely Povetkin, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I think so too. And like Povetkin's got to get knocked out brutally again. I don't know why he got to keep doing this because that's going to happen. And I think he might be doing fine for a point. Like he showed that he can still fight. Like he's still good, but he's not going to beat that guy, right? Like he's, so he's probably going to get knocked out brutally again, and he could just retire. He's made a lot. He made a lot of money. Hopefully, he's been smart with it. I I don't know why. I mean, Povetkin's fine. It's just like I think that Povetkin should stop because he's going to get brutally knocked out again. And the Pulev AJ fight, it has to be done, I suppose. I mean, I guess it doesn't, right? But if he wants to keep the IBF belt, that's got the potential of being just brutal and painfully boring to watch.
So bad. It's gonna be so bad to watch, guys. Let's be honest here. Like AJ is a fun fighter at times, but there's sometimes he's not, and that fight's gonna be bad.
Worse. Like it could be worse than the Parker fight.
You know, when I was doing the top 15 video, when you get to the Pulev section, which by the way, I don't know why it just has the letter K up when it says his name. The video, like my edit, the finished video shows his full name. It's pissing me off. But digressing from that. That shadow boxing from Pulev, did you see that? Whoa. I mean, like, look, like I'm not an athlete. Like, I'm not. Like, I'm one of those guys that, like, I got by in sports because, like, I tried really hard. Not because I was good at being, like, an athlete at all. I wasn't fast. I wasn't strong. Like, that wasn't me. But holy fucking shit. I am a better athlete than Kubrat Pulev. And I can say so with, like, out of doubt, in my opinion. Is that egregious, Gary?
The guy's not a great athlete.
No.
No.
Like, he made Joe Joyce look fast for a second. I watched him like, you know what? We have Pulev ranked way too high when I was watching that.
Mentally, he's good. I mean, to a degree. I mean, he's not going to beat these guys. He's not going to beat Anthony Joshua. He's not going to beat Deontay Wilder. But, the top, guys between 15 and 20, he can beat those guys because he's skilled and he throws clean shots.
Who do you pick, Pulev or Rivas, in a hypothetical fight?
I could see Rivas knocking him out, but I'm going to say Pulev takes the decision. Pulev can. I could see Rivas. Like, I could make an argument for Rivas. Rivas is saying, right now, who do I pick? I think Pulev's a little bit too skilled for him.
Matthew D'Souza saying, Matt, are you doing it clean, though? I'm 100% on banned substances. 100%. Don't worry about that. But don't worry. With VADA, they're not illegal. It's okay. If I'm VADA tested, I'm good. Speaking of heavyweights, just to stay on this aspect, Chase Athletics is saying Rivas in the chat. Pulev is one of those guys, like, his jab has saved him in so many fights. Like, his jab did wonders against Chisora. Let's be honest. Like, that, his jab has led him to be a top 15 heavyweight. So I could see his jab just beating certain guys, like Rivas, maybe even like Andy Ruiz in some aspect. But digressing, Alexander Usyk versus Derek Chisora may take place March 7th. Hey, my birthday. In Manchester, or March 28th at the O2. Eddie Hearns said for Manchester, he's eyeing Quigg versus Carroll, plus Fowler and Fitzgerald in separate fights. For O2, he's eyeing Avanesian versus Kelly and Ben versus Garton. Gary, thoughts on Usyk, Chisora, either main eventing over Quigg Carroll or main eventing over Avanesian and Kelly?
I don't understand the newfound obsession with Avanesian, but okay, fine.
I don't either.
Quigg and Carroll's a good fight. I mean, it's not. I don't know what it really means in the grand scheme of things, but it's a good scrap. I'm excited for this fight. I'm really into this fight because Matt says he got hands put on him. Fine. Okay. That means Chisora thinks I can knock this guy out.
Chisora's going to land some shots on Usyk, guys.
Now, that's the test we want to see because Chisora can crack, right?
Yeah.
His knockout of Spilka was vicious. That was this year, right?
Yeah, it was.
So that's another great. That's a lot of great knockouts.
Chisora has won 3 fights this year. Chisora's on a 3-fight winning streak this year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So this is the test. Like, this is the moment. Okay, can he stand up to a legitimate shot from a heavyweight? Because he's going to get hit by Chisora, right? So let's see how he stands up to it. And I think he stands up to it fine. I think he goes in there and he'll style on him and outbox him. But you're always going to have that stress. Well, what if he gets hit? What if he gets hit? What if he gets hit? Right? What if he gets caught with something clean? Like, Chisora may be out of it from a points perspective, but he's not out of it because he might be able to crack the little guy and put him out at any point. So it's going to be one of those fights where I think Chisora is running away with it on points, but you're still kind of sitting on the edge of your seat. Kind of the way you were with Wilder and Fury. Like, okay, Fury's putting all these rounds in the bank, but he's not really damaging him. He's not really hurting him. You leave Wilder, can Wilder knock him out, right? And then he almost got it in the 12th. But I think you're going to have that kind of action where it's not – the action itself might not be all world, but it's going to be exciting from the standpoint whereas Usyk looks good, but Chizore's not out of this fight.
There's going to be a suspense factor to that fight for sure, especially watching it live. I don't know, man. I'll be honest. I'm one of those, like, I'm a fan of Usyk, but if there's one thing I've been made to think over the years is that certain weight classes, guys just aren't the same. Like, they might be the best of all time at one weight class. They go to another weight class and they're not. And things just all of a sudden change. For whatever reason, right? Like, you want to be really negative about it, you can. Or if you want to give them, a rope and some parachute for the reason why, you can. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. But changing weight classes is a massive change. And cruiserweight to heavyweight is one of those big leaps where it's hard to be a cruiserweight champion and then to become a heavyweight champion. Very few have really done it. I don't know if Usyk is going to be that guy. I don't know yet, especially with this current crop of heavyweights where it is pretty deep, to be honest. I know you ranked him really high, but, I mean, you have to be honest here. There's a lot of guys that you ranked him above that are hard fights for him. Wanaki, Joe Miller, I'm trying to think of other names.
I don't get the Gerald Washington thing. Oh, you said Gerald Miller or Gerald, what did you say?
I said Miller.
Miller's going to outweigh him by 100 pounds.
Exactly. Like Miller, Wanaki, even like guys on the come up like Dubois, Gorman to a degree. I think they could all give Usyk a lot of trouble comparative to his run at cruiserweight because these guys are bigger, stronger, and can hit harder. And plus, this current crop of heavyweight are just better than the guys at cruiserweight right now. Like, if we're being completely honest here, they just are. Though the top of cruiserweight are pretty good still, but there's a difference. And Chisora is one of those guys, like, he is always game. You know, he could always beat you. And Usyk, while being defensively really sound at times, it does get lazy. And this is one of those fights he can't be lazy in. I'm intrigued. I mean, I wish, you know, there was one fight, one matchup I would have preferred over Chisora, and that would have been like Joseph Parker, because I think he's just a better name. But I'm all in favor of this fight. It makes a lot of sense for Usyk on the way up heavyweight rankings.
Yeah, and like Joseph Parker can't punch, so you know Usyk would just outbox him. You know, like you wouldn't have that same suspense. Is Parker gonna knock him out? I mean, maybe, but with Chisora, it's real. Chisora might knock him out at any point.
Agreed. Moving on. Shakur Stevenson, Josh Warrington unification eyed for May 16th in the UK. Bob Arum says if that's not happening, and he prefers actually that not to happen, which we might get into, he wants a March 15th date and a headline at MSG for Shakur Stevenson. So Bob Arum, by the way, is telling Shakur Stevenson not to take this fight. By the way, guys, I'm just warning you, okay? Like, not putting any bad vibes out there, but we might not get this fight. But Frank Warren was out with IFL. We're talking to IFL and said, our man wants it. Where are you? Talking to Shakur Stevenson. Tell your people to step up and make it happen. May 18th, Ellen Road. It's all there. Don't keep talking about it on social media. Make it a reality. And then Shakur responded on social media. First off, at Frank Warren, you're not going to give me chump change for a unification fight where I'm willingly ready to go to England. Pay me the right way, and that'll be the easiest fight to make ever because I want that fight bad. Gary, are you like me and all of a sudden very concerned about this fight actually happening?
I mean, like, I'm starting to think that it might not, but like I would still bet it does. Right? I think both guys want the fight. It's the biggest money fight in the division, right?
Maybe you have Gary Russell there,
but he only fights once a year.
Yeah,
right?
but he still makes seven figures a fight.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get made. I do. I don't know when. I don't know where. If I was Shakur Stevenson, you're not gonna knock him out. So I would not want to go over there and get a bogus decision, right? Because they just scored rounds for him on his work rate, right? Like he didn't land anything, but he threw a zillion punches, and now you lost the decision because this guy just threw a lot of punches. I'm not saying like it's gonna be a corrupt boat. Like saying like that's a real scenario where Warrington doesn't land really much of anything, but he throws so much more that he gets rounds he didn't really win. I would try to get that fight in the U.S. if I'm Shakur Stevenson. If I'm going to go over to the U.K., it better be financially worth it, right? Like you better be paying me a lot, right? Because I'm taking all the risk here. Like I'm not really going to knock him out, which means I need to go to the scorecards against a guy who works with a really high work rate. You're stacking the chips against me. You understand that, right? Like, and I'm a world champion too. I know, like, okay, how did he earn his whatever? He's got a title. He's a world title holder. If I'm going over there, you better make it worth it.
God damn that title. You're right. I mean, he's gonna think that he deserves a certain amount, whatever that certain amount is. I mean, I think he should get paid a good amount. Don't get me wrong, but it's featherweight. He's never fought under a top 15 guy in his life. You know, like if he's getting offered, like let's say 750, like be happy with that to a degree. I would be. If that's your disclosed purse, 750, fuck yeah.
750 in the U.S., I'll take it. I'm not going over there for 750. I'm not going over to the UK for 750. I want 1.2.
Well, it's $500,000 more. That's not happening.
Yeah, we negotiate. Okay, then go fight Scott.
What was his last purse? Let's check it. Well, let me check it. What was his last purse?
Go fight Jonah Carroll. You'll love it.
Go fight Jonah Carroll. Love it. I mean, I'm trying to remember what he was paid before. Shakur Stevenson, Joet Gonzalez purse. That's purse bid. I don't want that.
Yeah, it's gonna be small because that I mean.
Oh, it's Vegas too. Not Vegas, it's Nevada, sorry. Damn, what is it? I'm trying to find it. Digressing. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Digressing from that. Warrington Stevenson, I think, needs to happen in the UK. I think there's more value of Shakur going over there and beating him in his home country in front of 30,000 people than beating some tune-up in MSG in March in front of 5,000 to 8,000 people with a bunch of comps, right?
If they did it at the Garden, his hometown.
No. It's not about whether the fight's in the UK or the Garden. That's not what it is. It's either he fights in the UK against Josh Warrington or he fights at MSG against someone else. There's no U.S. option for this fight.
Okay. Right.
Period.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I want the Warrington fight. Yeah. I mean, give me the name of a guy you think is a realistic name that he can fight at the Garden if it's not a different guy, a different name.
There's not a lot there. I mean, it would have to be guys like a Michael Conlon or like a Carl Frampton or something like that has some sort of name value and some cachet with the demographics in New York and the tri-state area. Like, it would have to be someone like that.
Conlon's the name I was thinking, and I don't want to see that. Like, I think you're going to get that at some point, but I have zero interest in that fight.
I think you get that fight after the Warrington fight, win or lose.
You got to say for St. Patrick's Day, no? So it would be a year from now to maximize it.
Yeah, you're probably right. So Shakur takes the victory lap, second half of 2020, and then first quarter fights Michael Conlon. That's probably what happens. You just have to hope Michael Conlon doesn't take an L.
Top rank can match a guy, so he doesn't take an L.
Have you seen Oscar Valdez? He is struggling, man. Shushan, Matthew D'Souza is saying, yeah, but I don't think he can, like, you can't headline the main theater of the Garden with Shakur Stevenson and Shushan. Like, I don't think that's a one that gets you above 8,000 people, right? And if you're talking about doing less than half of the actual attendance, then just go to the small venue, go to the small theater at MSG, which they're not wanting to do. They want to propel them to something bigger, and to do that, you have to match them up bigger. You have to match them up with fights that are names that casuals will know, and to some degree. Again, Carl Frampton's probably the best one for him. Like, they should probably get him that Carl Frampton fight before Frampton retires. That'd be one that I push for. Because like a Leo Santa Cruz fight seems like it's out of the equation. Gary Russell Jr., well, that would be probably a good fight. Baltimore, DMV area versus New York, New Jersey area. I don't know if we would ever get that fight, to be honest. Blender in the chat, thank you, is saying correction for himself, saying Shakur Stevenson made $350,000. Joet Gonzalez made $200,000. So yeah, if you got paid over double that, yeah, sure, you should be happy. So $750.
What about Adam Lopez?
with back end money? Adam Lopez, I wouldn't mind that for a tune-up after Warrington. If it's before Warrington, like, that needs to be in the small theater.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's
But I mean, Adam Lopez. I mean, that's an all right name. I'm accepting of that. Do you think that Shakur wins this? Are you leaning that way?
Yeah, that performance was virtuoso against Joet Gonzalez. I mean, I wasn't as high as Shakur Stevenson as you were, but I mean, I don't know. That was baby Pernell Whitaker-esque that last performance. That was.
Yeah, too bad it was Joet Gonzalez, man. And it's hard.
I think Joet Gonzalez is good. I know, again, he's really untested. He had only had one name that had lost most of his fights. It was only one name that we knew, right? So it's like it was a top-ranked diet for sure. But I still think there's a lot of skill in Joet Gonzalez. We just can't go from the cab driver to Shakur Stevenson. Like, he should have fought someone in the middle there.
Mm-hmm. Matthew D'Souza in Frampton lineup for Herring in Belfast. I thought, no, you're right. I'm just saying, just overall fights that Shakur probably needs in the next 18 months. Frampton's one of those names, and it's one of the few names he could fight that he could do a decent attendance at the Garden, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Not who he's going to fight next. That's not what we're talking about at all. Mike Coppinger reporting. Sources, a Chinese agency at $1.9 million, won the purse bid for the IBF light heavyweight title fight between Artur Beterbiev and China's Men Fanlong or Fanlong Mang. The bout will likely be staged in China in the spring. Top Rank, which holds a long-term deal with Beterbiev, bid $1.35 million. Jake Donovan of Boxing Scene reported that Rock Nation were the ones that bid on this fight on behalf of Rejoy Group / Longjoy Sports in China. So Rock Nation back in the game, it seems. Also, there is some thought that Beterbiev might vacate his belt and move on from this matchup. There is some reporting, Jake Donovan reporting as well, that is possible. So guys, do not be surprised to see this fight actually not even happen, to be honest. But there has been a purse bid been ordered. It obviously was won by Fanlong Mang's side, and now we have a situation where Beterbiev either agrees to it or he vacates. Gary, thoughts on what is next for Artur Beterbiev, the best light heavyweight in the world?
It's kind of like two-sided, right? Like, I don't want him to have that fight, but then I don't want another ridiculous champion, which you would have, because he'd vacate that, and then the guy that he would destroy would likely win a world title. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want the fight, but then I don't want another title holder either. So
by the way, Fanlong Mang is not a bad prospect, by the way. Undefeated Chinese prospect, not bad. There have been worse mandatories that we've talked about.
There has been worse mandatories. Carlos Ocampo and
yes, the go-to.
Steak boots.
No, vegan boots.
Vegan boots.
Vegan boots.
I mean, these are not great. I wish that the IBF. I give them all credit for making people take their mandatories. I wish their rankings weren't totally bogus, though, right? Like,
See, I don't give him credit for like enforcing the mandatories.
Uh,
You know why? Because all it does is serve them in their pocketbooks and does a disservice to the rest of the divisions. The IBF forcing the mandatories actually are a cause of chaos when it comes to unifications.
well, no, like let the unification take precedence.
But they don't do that. They don't do that, though.
They should, right? Okay, fine. If it's not a unification, it should be unification, mandatories, and then anything else you want to take is third, right? But you should have to take a mandatory every 18 to 24 months. And whatever you want to do besides that, if you want to take a unification fight, that's fine. But then within 6 months or 12 months, you have to agree to take a unification fight, right? Like, that's the...
Leonard in the chat with such bias here. I love it. Saying vacate Meng versus Buatsi next in line to get a UK world champion. Guys.
Yard.
Though I'm a fan of Buatsi. Buatsi should not be a world champion in the next year. He hasn't fought the right people. He's not Royal caliber yet. It would be not to like the degree, but it'd be almost a parallel of like Shakur Stevenson being a champion now. It's icky. Like I don't like it. It devalues the belt. It devalues what it means to have a belt. It devalues you as a fighter. No, I'd rather have Better Beef just defend this against Meng in China, collect a cool 1 point something million from it, and be satisfied. Meng's undefeated. He's a good prospect. He was on our top 15 light heavyweight rankings before. I mean, this isn't a bad opponent. And plus, he's making decent money off of it. Like, it's not like it's a bad purse bid, in my opinion. Right? I mean, 1.9 million for this fight. I mean, he's going to make 66% of that, which is what,
1, 2,
something like that million.
$1 million, yeah.
Yeah, he's making $1 million off this, and also, if you're top ranked, you're thinking, man, we don't have to pay for this fight. We don't have to pay for the production of it. It all gets sort of offshore to China, and they pay for everything. I think you definitely jump on that. And plus, Bob Aaron's been out there saying we're out there looking for the biggest money to offset costs because we're not making ticket sales. We're not making money here in the States. Gary?
I agree. No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. But what if you could get an Anthony Yard fight instead? You'd have to vacate it, but you could make an Anthony Yard fight.
Why do you keep mentioning Anthony Yard?
Because I think after that fight with Kovalev, I think there's appeal to his name. I think people want to see him again in a big fight.
Dude has to fight first, bro.
I agree. And it would be tough to go from that fight, that brutal war with Kovalev, and then jump into another war. But
Anthony Yard's not part of any conversation for the next year. He's not. Like, I'm sorry. Dude's not even talked about with fights. Like, think about it. There's not even whispers or news articles or interviews out there talking about who he's lined up with next. The guy's out of commission for a while, it seems. And
I mean, he got beaten. That was such a brutal war. He ended up getting knocked out by a jab, if you remember. It was a jab.
Yeah.
A stiff jab that finally ended, but that's how out he was from. I mean, that was such a brutal fight.
Somebody bringing up a good point. What happens with Canelo's 175 WBO belt since it was vacated by Canelo? God, who's next in line for that one? Gary, you want to look that up really fast? WBO rankings, light heavyweight rankings. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up real quick. Give me a minute.
And quickly, let me see what else I can give here from this story. Not much, but I'm curious about what Better Reeve does in 2020. I mean, the guy is on just such a upward trend in terms of boxing perception, even though maybe not as a drawing power, obviously, but in terms of hardcores, Better Reeve is rising up the rankings in terms of our perception, pound for pound, status-wise. Leonard Sterling is saying Ramirez and Salimov are next in line. Zerto, number 1, Salimov, number 2. I mean, Zalamov's not a bad opponent, obviously. I mean, Zalamov's one of those guys that's been around for such a long time, it seems. He's due for a big fight. Gilberto Ramirez, obviously, former WBO champion at 168. It makes sense why he's so high at 175. You know,
watch them get something done here where the Jesse Hart, Joe Smith Jr. fight becomes for that belt.
Tyson Fury outboxes Jesus Christ. It's just somebody's name, not what I'm saying. I'm saying Muslims in China, question mark. I think you're talking about the Uyghurs in China. You want me to talk about that? Obviously, China is, the government of China is rounding up the Uyghur population, which is a ethnic population of Muslims in China, and systematically re-educating and sterilizing them. It's just, I mean, it's genocide without the actual killing. But it is significant there, so people aren't read up on it. Go read up on it. I don't know if I think that this is obviously an attempt to try to get me to compare it to like the Saudi Arabia and like what happened with AJ and all that. I don't know if it's the same because I don't know about Rejoy, this company Rejoy. What's the name of it? Rejoy Group, Longjoy Sports. If they are a government subsidy of some sort, but if it is, then it is a aspect of sports washing. Absolutely. If it's just some separate, corporation in that country, then it's not an issue of sports washing. It'd be the same as like Rock Nation in the U.S. promoting fights. That's not sports washing our private prison system, for example. It only is when the U.S. government, which is partaking in an atrocity, also paying for some sort of aspect of sports. Like Saudi Arabia. The actual government of Saudi Arabia, which is participating in atrocities in Yemen and other places within their own country, the government is literally paying through the sports ministry or something like that. And that's how they pay for sporting enterprises to come to the country. A little bit different. Better Reeve as a Muslim should say something. If that's the reason why he's not going, I do know there was some aspect as Better Reeve not wanting to go to China. If that's the reason why he doesn't want to go, credit to him. I mean, shout out to Archer Better Reeve if that is the reason why he doesn't want to go to China. Gary, any other thoughts on Rock Nation being involved with this to some degree? What that could mean? Fanlong Mang, Archer Better Beef, does the fight even happen? Any other thoughts on this mandatory?
I don't think it happens, A. But B, I wanted to hear what you like. Rock Nation, is this destined to fail again? Is this going to be?
I don't even know what it is. That's the weird part. Like, I think it's just, I don't know. I have no idea what to make of Rock Nation being involved here, because they made the bid on behalf of this company. So my thinking is that there's some relationship here between this Chinese corporation and Jay-Z's Rock Nation, and due to tax reasons, I'm guessing, Rock Nation's the one that made the bid. That's my pure assumption here as to why this is happening. Also, I am curious if the Ramirez Postal fight is also the same group. If it's the God, what the fuck is that name of it? Rejoy Group / Longjoy Sports. I wonder if that's the same group participating in the Jose Ramirez Victor Postal fight in China. Top ranked state. I wonder if it's the same umbrella. I wonder. Curious. Neil, the security Sam lost. What's the beef with China? I don't really have a beef with China per se in terms of its people or anything like that. Just the country is rounding up Muslims. It's bad, but I have no idea if that's what's happening here, or if that has any aspect to any aspect to Better Beef's decision, who is Muslim, and what his decision not to want to fight in China. Moving on, Mike Garcia, not sure if he can hurt bigger fighters at 147. Quote, maybe you won't be able to see all that I can do against a bigger man because maybe I won't be able to hurt them with my power. They're the bigger guy. I don't know what to expect from Jesse. I can't give any insight into what to expect. It's going to be a great matchup. Gary, is Mike Garcia sounding like already defeated in his welterweight run? And is
inspiring to say the least.
Is he cashing out?
I you don't know, right? Like when he quit boxing for 2.5 years in his absolute prime because of the top prime, I don't know. Like this is not because what is he 31? Like he's not old.
Yeah, he still has plenty of gas in the tank, so to speak. Yeah,
but like he made a lot of money, especially with the Spence fight. Mm-hmm. He's set to make a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I mean, his brother quit when his brother was a world champ. I don't know if people remember that, but they were all 3 world champs in the same weight class. Him, Genaro Hernandez, and Famoso Hernandez were all from LA or the LA area, and they're all world champ in the same division at the same time. But his brother retired when he was like 26. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. I mean, I don't think he wants to do this for till he's 40. You know, maybe this might be it for him. I don't know. But this is not like what you expect a world-class pound-for-pound kind of guy to say in his prime. Like,
you know what it reminds me of is when I overheard Kovalev saying, I think it was to Marcos Villegas, a fight hub, I can't knock out Canelo. Like, Triple G has more power than me, and we all sparred together in Big Bear. Like, I know I can't hurt Canelo. And I went, wait a minute.
You're 2 weight classes bigger, and you don't think...
And we're 7 weeks out, and you're already saying, I can't hurt this guy? What? And I wasn't as alarmed then, and I'm making the connection. Maybe it's an indirect connection between that and this, but I'm concerned now, to be honest. Like, Jesse Vargas is a guy that I think is pedestrian in a lot of ways, let's be honest. Mikey is better than him in every department. Every department. Mikey should win this one in a landslide. If he doesn't, though, I think it's indicative of something mentally with him. That like he's checked out to a degree. Because he should win this. And there is a difference in the way Mikey looks, not physically, but just like his demeanor, his body language nowadays compared to his run through lightweight. I mean, he's blowing out like Robbie Hearns and then like guys like Adrian Broner. Like there was a difference in how he looked compared to now in his body language. Again, me just speculating here, but I'm highly concerned about Mikey Garcia and how serious he is when it comes to boxing.
I think Mikey was absolutely certain that he was going to beat Errol Spence. He thought at that particular time, I beat Broner. Broner knocked down Porter. Broner won a world title at 147. I beat Lipinets. I dropped Lipinets. Lipinets has had success as a welterweight. I'm going to win this fight. I can beat Errol Spence. The size doesn't matter. And then he found out that it did, and he wasn't really as good as he thought he was. I think like that is kind of playing on his brain. Like not only did I lose to Spence, I got outboxed by Spence.
That was his first loss. Like I think to a degree, like obviously like that doesn't matter, like people rebound. But it does take a time, especially if you've been undefeated for such a long time, to mentally deal with that loss. And if you don't mentally deal with it in the right ways, for whatever the right ways are for you personally, then it's going to manifest in later fights. It is. And maybe that's what we see here, that confidence being gone, that charisma, that chip on the shoulder ego that he, and I'm not saying ego in a bad way, ego in a good way, that he had going into it. Like you said, like he beat Broner, he beat Lipinets, he beat certain guys, Robert Easter. That knockout Dejan Zlaticanin was still being used and still used by Showtime in terms of promo packages to this day. He walked into that Spence fight with such confidence, and you could see it on him, like in the press conference. Like he thought it was going to be not a walk in the park, but he thought like, I got this. I'm too good. And then like you said, Gary, he found out rather quickly he wasn't good enough to beat this guy. And I don't know if he's really dealt with that in the right way. I'm not around him, don't know him, don't know. But it is clearly an issue right now, this lack of confidence, because he should be out there saying, I can beat up Jesse Vargas. He was a guy that was fighting a lightweight and junior welterweight like me. He's a guy that had the same come up as me, except I did it better than him. He beat the Lopez of the world. I beat the Salidos of the world. My come up was better. Like, Mikey should be more confident heading into this matchup, and he's not. Massive issue. Gary, I'm trying to remember where we differed on the Pacquiao-Mikey prediction, right? Didn't you thought Mikey could beat Pacquiao, right?
Yeah, I picked Mikey to win that fight.
And I was like, no, that's ridiculous, right? Are you rethinking that at all? From a mentality perspective, from a mental perspective, is Mikey no longer in it as you thought he could be?
It's not, like I said, it's not confidence inspiring. This is not like when I said, I think that Kell Brook would win another world title and he took another year off. It's like, oh, geez, this guy's not in. I'm going to be wrong about that prediction. Like, this is not a great sign. Like, this is like the exact opposite of what you'd want to hear. I mean, I don't know. Maybe his heart's not. This next performance, this Jesse Vargas performance, I think is going to be telling.
Agreed in every way. Let's go to the next topic. This is one of those fights that we're going to have a debate on. Maybe not me and you, but as a community, this is one of those fights that if it happened 2 years ago, there was no debate on it. Roman Gonzalez would demolish Khalil Yaffe. He would. But now it's going into 2020, and it doesn't seem like Roman Gonzalez is the same Roman Gonzalez. So Eddie Hearn via IFL, that same interview that I showed earlier, he is saying that Yaffe Gonzalez is looking, quote, very good, a, quote, very good chance it will land on the Mike Garcia-Jesse Vargas card February 29th. He also hopes that Julio Cesar Martinez will end up on that card as well. So, Gary, first question, Yaffe and Gonzalez, thoughts on that matchup? How competitive is it nowadays? Do you see Gonzalez potentially catching fire again and having a career renaissance like we talk about with other guys like Pacquiao and others? And second question is, thoughts on this card now as it's seemingly developing? We having Garcia versus Vargas at the top, Gonzalez versus Yaffe, and Julio Cesar Martinez. Thoughts on the card as a whole right now as well?
No, it's a really good card. Again, for us, we love it. I don't know that it's going to Martinez and Yaffe are going to resonate with the general boxing public because they are so small. But
I think it's going to do great in Texas though. Like, it's going to sell out. You have Mikey, Jesse, Julio Cesar Martinez, who I think I might be wrong on this. Santi, if you're available to talk today, that'd be lovely. Like, do you think like Hispanic boxing fans are catching on to Martinez? Because I'm assuming Santi still goes to the gym more than I do because I don't go to the gym anymore. I should. I just put up a boxing bag in my garage so I don't have to go to the gym because I'm lazy. But I'm wondering if Martinez is now becoming a topic of conversation in the gyms of LA and in the Southwest, because he should be. Like, he's one of those guys you feel like the boxing community will support in a way, and Texas is a boxing community and a Hispanic boxing community at that. I could see it selling very well from a ticket perspective.
Hopefully, right? Like, potentially. Like, I would say definitely maybe, but again, he's so small. I don't know. I mean, I would think so, but I mean, do you have to hit Ricardo Lopez status level to really sell in the smaller weight classes? Chocolatito had the HBO push. Like, HBO wanted to push him because, well, they could pay him a little bit of money and they thought they could get big ratings for their return, right?
Yeah, like Roman Gonzalez and Carlos Cuadras sold out the Forum.
It's a great fight.
Sold out the Forum. That's like a 11, 12, 14,000 seater. Like, that's a noticeable venue to sell out.
No, I think it helps sell tickets for sure. Like, I think you sell that as the Coleman, and I think it helps. I think it's a really good fight. Look, is Chocolatito Gonzalez going to be competitive in the fight? Yes, absolutely. Do I pick him to win? I said after his last performance, like, okay, I'm not going to judge anything off of that performance because that was a nothing fight. That was like when Billy Joe Saunders came back and fought at light heavyweight. I'm not going to put any stock in it. I'm going to make like that didn't happen. right? That was just something to stay busy and get a fight this year, before the year ended. I would have to lean towards Yaffe at this point, but I think it's a competitive fight. I don't think Chocolatito is going to be completely washed. It's just that Yaffe's got a win over Ashita, he's got a win over Carmona, and then he just beat Norberto Jimenez. Like, he's a good fighter.
Mm-hmm.
We're really impressed with him. And I said the jury is still out on Chocolatito, which means I can't say he's back yet. So I'm going to lean towards Yaffe because I know what I have in him.
Yeah, it's one of those questions where, like, nowadays I'm leaning one way, and if you asked me 18 months ago, I would have said no. Yeah, Yaffe wouldn't win this fight. Sorry, it's just not happening. And then times change, and Yaffe is still in his 20s, and Gonzalez is out of his 20s, and looked a little bit chubby in his last fight, and definitely looked slower, like significantly slower in his approach, his hand speed, all alarming to me personally. Moving on, though.
Billy Joe Saunders took that fight at light heavyweight in the UK when he was suspended. Did he look particularly good to you in that fight?
You're not talking about the Sufi fight, are you? Not talking about the fight you won his title on.
No, for the fight before. He hang on. Now I need to look it up. He fought at light heavyweight. He looked about 20 pounds overweight in the fight. You don't remember this fight?
You're talking about like post Andrade, right? That whole situation?
Yeah, after the Andrade, he fought who is this? Charles Adamu.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yeah. I vaguely remember that. Oh my god. Billy Joe's such trash. Overrated.
I forgot that he fought on that stupid dopey YouTube card. I was just like, oh, that's right. And he was losing rounds in that fight too. That was bad.
Bad.
Maybe that was a bad example. Maybe he is shot, right? Like, maybe Billy Joe's like, because I was just saying he looked awful in that fight at light heavyweight but like, that's nothing. That fight doesn't count, right? Like,
or it does. I don't know.
Maybe it does, right?
And Billy Joe hasn't looked that great at light heavyweight, for being completely honest. He hasn't looked great except for one fight.
No,
maybe 2 or 3 tops.
Andy Lee, Willie Monroe, David Lemieux. I was Chris Eubank. John Ryder.
But here's the thing. He didn't look great against Andy Lee and Chris Eubank. He just beat them. You get my point?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, he looked great against David Lemieux. Like, he looked like he could beat everyone in the middleweight division in that fight.
And Willie Monroe. That was a really good performance.
Was it?
I thought so. He won dang near every round in that fight against a guy I thought was pretty good.
Is he though? I mean, he put some hands on Triple G, but another guy overrated. Again, one of these days we're gonna have a show just called Overrated, where we list.
He's gonna be on that list, and I'm not a Triple G hater necessarily, but like, come on, guys.
Motherfucker still lists his regular title defenses as his real title defenses, and it pisses me off. DAZN had the audacity when they signed Triple G to run commercials on TV saying that Triple G was the longest reigning boxing champion of all time.
I know. I just ignore it. Like, okay,
like you're lying. Like, first off, even if you said the middleweight division, still a fucking lie. But you're saying of all time. Man, if the ghost of Joe Louis doesn't come out and smack you, Joe Markovsky, I swear to fucking God. I swear to God. But moving on before I get an aneurysm here. Ryan Garcia did fight Francisco Fonseca on February 14th, Valentine's Day in LA. Probably going to go to this because Valentine's Day is overrated. And it gets me out of actually having to do a date with anyone that I talk to. Be forced to. Ryan Garcia, Fonseca, thoughts on this fight, Gary? I don't like it. I think this is one of those fights that's a prime example of shitty matchmaking that is the norm in boxing.
It is awful matchmaking. I mean, there's a 130 pounder who lost to both guys he fought. Like, This is ridiculous. Like, you can't find at least a real lightweight. You got to move up a 130 pounder that nobody cares about, who lost both his fights. Like, I think.
But look, you're gonna get Sergio Mora and Todd Grisham or whatever fucking jack off on the DAZN telecast, going, yeah, but Fonseca, he went rounds with Gervonta Davis. He went rounds with Tevin Farmer. Great barometer, great test for the young Ryan Garcia, who's still working on things. Blah.
All right, then do it in the gym. Do it as a sparring session, and then again, this fight. But this is the problem. This is why, like, a guy like Hector Tanahara, who has all world skills, right? But like, his style isn't really gonna make people jump at seeing his fights. Kind of needs to get away from Golden Boy, right? Like, because this is not.
Quickly,
his talent.
Hold on. Before you jump into this rant about Tanahara, Heath in the chat, because I know you're probably still listening or you're gonna listen. I know you have a drinking game where when I say digress or digressing, you take a shot. You need to add Hector Tanahara to the list. Not Figueroa, not Ortiz, only Tanahara. Because I guarantee you, motherfucker, you would be drunk off your ass every show if that is like in the drinking MCR game. Just saying. Back to you about Tanahara fighting Ryan Garcia. Which, I mean, no, you're right. Much better fight than Fonseca. I mean, you can literally match him up here with almost anyone that we talk about on a regular basis on this show in the lightweight division, and it's an exponentially better matchup. But this is the old way of doing of matchmaking for a prospect. Match him up with guys that are 100% beatable and have only lost to people you know. Right? You're muted, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of is, the name. I mean, I don't know. Like, he fought on one of the biggest cards ever, Mayweather McGregor, and then he fought Tevin Farmer. The fight is so stupid. Like, it's so dumb. It's like, I feel like you're just getting lazy. It's like, who's someone with a name he can beat? Who's that guy? I think he's from Chile that fought. Yeah, get him.
Who's the guy that Tank beat on that that Mayweather and that MMA fighter card?
Fonseca? I was something like that. Sounds right. Get him. What's his quote? All right.
Fanta? No, that's a soda. That was the conversation at Golden Boy headquarters, guys. Verbatim. Quote us on that, please. Reporters, breaking news, sources, sauces. Okay? That's what they said. That's how they made that matchup. Golden Boy's trash, as Art Alexander in the chat is saying. Co-sign on that 100%.
I like Golden Boy fighters, and I was a De La Hoya fan back in the day.
Oh, I know.
I want to say those words.
I love a lot of the Golden Boy fighters. Even guys like Rashidi Ellis. I absolutely love these fighters. Eric Gomez and Oscar De La Hoya, not so much. I'm not a big fan of those two guys. Just being honest, I think they do a lot of... Like, what have they done lately? Other than Oscar being coked up at press conferences, mispronouncing names, Eric Gomez shitting on his prize prospect. Like, what have they done? Even like Kathy Duva is exponentially better than De La Hoya and Eric Gomez.
We never got to have that conversation about Kathy Duva and Lou DiBella making it to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's right, because I don't think you were on that.
I don't remember.
I don't think you ended up being on that show or something for some reason. You're out of town.
Those things where, like, there's a prolonged career of mediocrity make you a Hall of Famer, right? Like, if I just play for 20 years and just kind of okay for 20 years, like, have I accumulated enough stats to be? No, I mean, it's supposed to be a Hall of Fame. You look at the best fights made. Kathy Duva and Lou DiBella aren't involved in those fights. Like, they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like, they can be in the Hall of Very Good, but this is not the Hall of Very Good. Like, this is the Hall of Fame. This is
the Hall of Very Good. I don't know about mediocrity. I think there's a lot of value in having a regional scene and promoting through that. Like, obviously, Lou DiBella's club shows in the tri-state area on its own, I think, own merit to the Hall of Fame because, like, I see value in that, for example. I'm trying to think of, like, other people that do club shows often.
Joe DeGuardia does the same thing. You want to put him in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. No. Just a great example. Yes, I do. 'Cause I think that like you're talking about somebody that has, in a large way, been the foundation to the pro ranks. Because the regional scene is the foundation to the pros. You can argue the amateurs are as well, but that's an unnecessary sidestep. When you're in the pros, you start on your club show. You start at a local casino. You start at behind some barn or a club, wherever. Like that's where you start. And the people that make it, Peltz is another good example. Russell Peltz. I think all those guys deserve a lot of credit. And Hall of Fame is the body that gives credit out, then give credit to those men or those people. I think Kathy Duva, maybe because she's kind of taken over the business only in a relatively short amount of time, does that one kind of seem iffy? I would have maybe inducted her 10 years down the line, to be honest. Not right now. Just my personal opinion. But like Lou DiBella, the guy was on HBO and helped run HBO for close to a decade. That in of itself is massive. And then he also helped bring up the tri-state club scene and help build that up and rejuvenate that to a degree. Where I would say Lou DiBella club shows are still some of the most accessible club shows in the tri-state area. So there's value in that. I understand your point, Gary. I'm trying to make a good comparison. I to stick in ball sports is hard. I just went to the Baseball Hall of Fame a few years back, trying to think of a good comparison. Whenever I do, I'll bring one up to you. It's like, it's this guy or this thing. What was that?
Have you been to the Boxing Hall of Fame?
No, I have not.
It's not far from the Baseball Hall of Fame, probably an hour and a half drive. Like, it's not that far. Like, the Baseball Hall of Fame is mesmerizing, right?
So
like, you go to the Boxing Hall of Fame, it looks like a house. And then in the back, it's really cool. There's, like, the ring from Madison Square Garden that they used for, like, 90 years. Like, it's crazy. It's the same ring. And they put it, like, because Madison Square Garden used to actually be, like, in Madison Square Park. Like, and then they moved it to, like, Penn Station. Like, but they used the same ring, right? So it's like they give you a list of every single fight that was, and it's like every name from like James Corbett to Miguel Cotto fought in this ring. That ring, it's really crazy. But like, it literally looks like a house. Like it looks like a house turned into an office. Like that's the Boxing Hall of Fame. And you compare it to the Baseball Hall of Fame, you're like, what is this? This like
money.
Yeah, it is. Like, and I love boxing, and I like Hall of Fames and museums like that, dedicated to sports. But like I'm in and out of there in like 2 hours. Like okay, the Baseball Hall of Fame it's like a weekend trip. The Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I spent a whole day there. In the Baseball Hall of Fame, like a whole day inside that thing. That thing is massive.
The Boxing Hall of Fame is like, you're in and out like 2 hours, and like I had to like look at everything. But they had this one cool thing where they had molds of everyone's fists who's in the Hall of Fame, and they had Lennox Lewis hand right next to Willie Pep's hand. It's like these things are the same species. Like Willie Pep.
I understand that completely. As a 5'9", 135-pound guy, I have shaken the hands of a lot of giant heavyweights in combat sports. Deontay Wilder, for example, John Jones, Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos. A lot more UFC heavyweights, it seems, surprisingly. Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic. Different species. Like, I would never fuck with those people. Like, I talk a lot of shit, but, like, in real life, no, not to those people. Oh, they could step on me and kill me. No, this is not happening. They're giants. Literally Goliath. And if you meet, like, some of the super tall heavyweights, like the 6'11" guys, it's not fun. Dominic Brazil, another guy I've met. Massive motherfucker. Pause. Different species. Completely. What else? 92 saying 5'9", you're the size of Canelo. Actually, Canelo's 5'8". People, he's 5'8". He's for sure 5'8". He's not 5'9". But he's also 5'8" and 190 pounds of pure muscle.
When you're that short, you like to add that extra inch. Oh, I was 5'8" and these shoes, It's one of those things. It's like,
No, look, I know when I'm taller than people.
yeah,
Okay, and I've been next to Canelo a few times. I'm taller than him. Like Spence is my height, for example.
about 5'9", 5'10".
He's definitely not 5'10".
Now he's listed himself as 5'10", but
No,
yeah,
he's 5'9".
and it was like Usyk lists himself at 6'3".
But like Crawford and Spence, same size.
Yeah,
Same with like physique too. Like I think people like chalk up Spence being a far bigger person, and maybe he balloons up outside of camp. But like I remember being in New York and walking down the street with Spence, and then Crawford came down the other way, and I was like, oh, "Bye, Spence," and started walking down with Crawford, and they're the same size. So I mean, I literally got a side by side comparison with them on the same street for the Thurman Garcia weigh-in, I believe it was. I was hanging out with both of them. But digressing from that, I don't know how I got on that topic, but Ryan Garcia, Fonseca should be a tune-up showcase for Ryan Garcia. Solomon Barrera, just sort of cleaning up the news here. Solomon Barrera is a free agent, wants a Marcus Brown clash. I'm okay with that. I'm not opposed to that. And also, Solomon Barrera is a free agent. Someone pick him up. I mean, that's an entertaining guy. There's value to him being a gatekeeper to the stars at 175, and he's a great barometer for any prospects you have, to be honest. So there's value to Solomon Barrera still, to be honest. Maybe not a lot of value, but there's value to him. What else? Mizuaki Iota obviously lost to was Christopher Diaz, right? And we were talking about the other day. He's back fighting on the Ramirez postal card, fighting a guy named, I apologize here, Yang Kang Yang on the Ramirez postal card. I do not know who this person is. Also, Dana White clarifies that Floyd Mayweather is, quote, fighting. It is part of the plan. So there was some rumors and concern about whatever Mayweather and Dana White are doing. It doesn't equal a fight. Dana White is under the impression, no, it means a fight. So, guys, Floyd Mayweather versus some MMA fighter in an exhibition fight coming to a theater near you in 2020. Gary, before we jump to like our truly last topic of the show, any thoughts about those few little topics?
no, I'm done talking about Mayweather unless he has a real boxing match, not an exhibition, not a kickboxer, not a UFC dude, a real boxer. Otherwise, I'm done talking about Mayweather.
Okay, last topic of the day, guys, and then we're gonna head out of here. According to Sensor Tower, who's the outlet we talked about, I think a few months back, talking about DAZN numbers, the top grossing sports app worldwide for November of 2019 was DAZN, with more than $16.8 million in user spending. Approximately 46% of DAZN's revenue was from the United States, and it beat out ESPN, surprisingly. 1, 2, and 3. In terms of overall revenue, it goes DAZN, ESPN, NBA, Onyx, Hunt, Kayo Sports, NHL, Game Changer, Fight, The Athletic, MLB At Bat, App Store revenue. You get like RMC Sport jump in there, PP Sports, I don't know what those are, and Google Play revenue, Bleacher Report Live jumps in there as well. But DAZN, no matter in all three different categories, is number one with ESPN at number 2. Gary, thoughts on DAZN surpassing ESPN in total revenue worldwide for their app in November?
I was shocked by that. I thought it was ESPN. It wouldn't even be close. I guess because they charge so much more. I mean, they need less, but who cares, right? Like they don't care. I mean, I guess you want more subscribers because you did.
You add in maybe the Canelo event, KSI Logan Paul. Sorry.
Virgil Ortiz.
What?
Virgil Ortiz.
Oh, they also had like Wilder Ortiz in certain markets as well, I believe. Like they had some big fights. They had some big events worldwide in November. Plus, I'm guessing some other sports worldwide, like football worldwide, was doing well. I don't know. I don't watch
The what do they call it?
Snooker.
The snooker.
It sounds like some like 1950s porn. If we're being honest here. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I wonder here because the ESPN Plus app, obviously ESPN app, I'm assuming that includes the pay-per-view purchases of UFC events, right? Because a UFC event or UFC pay-per-view is purchased only on the ESPN app, ESPN Plus.
Oh, that I would say, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Well, then this seems like a very low number for the ESPN app if you're including pay-per-views from the UFC. I mean, you also had Masvidal Diaz at this same month, right? Was that also November, I want to say? So this seems extremely low. ESPN with only $11 million in gross revenue in 2019 for this month in November seems low. If you include that potential pay-per-view market, even though it's obviously a diminished market compared to what it was originally on cable providers, but still, you're still adding a good percentage of revenue from pay-per-views, I'm assuming, for the UFC with this. Why is it so low? Is it a sign that the pay-per-views are really are struggling that much on ESPN Plus comparative to when they were distributed through cable providers? I don't know, but that would be one thing I am trying to find out, because if that number is included, then it makes DAZN's placement number one really impressive to me. If it does include that metric for ESPN Plus, then it's not as impressive to me, to be honest. Because like you said, the price point for DAZN is 4 times higher than ESPN Plus is. So, it would just be, it would just, there's a lot of things I'm curious about with these numbers that I don't feel like I have a complete data table here.
ESPN's going to raise their prices too.
They have to.
Like they're gonna say, okay, well, DAZN did this by charging this much, and we're only charging 5. Okay, we're gonna charge 8 or 10. Like that's gonna happen. Like, because you know that you can get it because DAZN's getting it, and I'm a bigger name, and I offer a better product. Like I know people outside of the boxing community who have the ESPN Plus app. I don't know anyone outside of the boxing community who's got DAZN.
Yeah, unless they're an MMA fan. That'd be it for Bellator.
But it had to be a hardcore MMA fan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you're just casual MMA fans like, I want to watch Bellator. I want to watch Fedor Emelianenko versus Rampage Jackson 2019 in Japan. No, that's like 50 people tops. Shit was a shit show. But that is it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Tomorrow is not for sure in terms of a show. And if we don't have a show tomorrow, that means we're going to be off for the rest of the week. So if that does, Happy New Year to everyone out there. Thank you for all the support. Check out our other video, the top 15 heavyweights of the world right now, that we put out earlier today. I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. You can find me Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. Gary.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Another good show today. If I don't see you again tomorrow, then have a great new year. It was a really good year of boxing. Go back and check out all the great fights there was, and the great knockouts. It was a great year for both. It's a really, really good year for boxing. And
reminder, the year's not done yet. We still have the New Year's Eve Japanese card tonight. So around 1 a.m. probably Pacific Standard Time is usually around when those cards start. So 4 a.m., 3 a.m. Eastern Time, and that would be around 8 a.m., 9 a.m. UK time. The Japanese card starts, guys. It's not televised anywhere, so you have to find a stream old school. If you need help with that, again, at me on social media. I'll help anyone out. Matt Hunter, MCR. Sorry, Gary. Didn't mean to interrupt you there. Just want to remind people.
Or I could just get it on Daily Motion in the morning.
You could do that. You could wait till the next day and just find it on dailymotion.com.
Which is when you wake up if you're in the United States.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, again, if it's another show this year, have a great year. Find me on all forms of social media at 3D Boxing. From Texas to the world, thank you. God bless.
Peace.